Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Gwen Jacobsen, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. This week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press is dated Friday, January 13th, 2023. And of course, the New Year's baby has arrived. The first baby born at Neepawa Health Center in 2023 has arrived as Abigail Thelma Kleinsasser. She was born on Monday, January 2nd at 08:47 hours. Her parents, Kimberly and Samuel, whisked her home to her waiting brothers and sisters, Sam, Katie, and Kenneth, at Delta Colony. The Tangled Threads Quilt Guild will present their gift as soon as possible. So congratulations to them. She's a cutie. The other news on the front page is about our new home hardware building by Owen Devereaux. Just in time for your annual spring cleanup and home renovation plans, Home Hardware should have its doors open at a new 20,000 square foot facility in Neepawa. The building, which will include an attached lumber storage facility, has been under construction throughout the winter. Michelle Gerard, the owner and operator of the Neepawa Home Hardware, said that they are a little behind their original estimated opening date, but will be open before the spring. We're probably going to be about 8 weeks past where we were supposed to be in the first place, but a combination of little factors came into place. We had a wet spring, and it took us a little longer to get onto the property, she said. Right now, we're looking at a soft opening around mid-March. And it goes on to say, Gerard noted as well that some supply chain issues over the winter have also caused slight delays. For the most part, however, she said these are all minor issues and are part of the building experience for a project of this scale. As for the actual construction of the building, Gerard said that has been proceeding according to plans. She said seeing the structure start to take shape over the last few weeks has made the process worthwhile. She also noted that customers have expressed their excitement for seeing the building progress and that they're looking forward to seeing the finished product. The new home hardware building is being built on 3.5 acres of land at 142 Main Street West, close to the junction of the Yellowhead Highway and Veterans Way. It will be nearly double the size of the hardware store existing building, which is at 268 Hamilton Street. Due to the larger space in the new building, a number of new employees will be hired. The current expectation is that 8 new full-time or 2 to 4 part-time positions will be created from the expansion. Currently, there are 14 home hardware employees, and there's a few pictures here showing what's been happening. A large portion of the exterior work seems to be done, and inside the facility, progress is slowly but steadily proceeding. The current expectations is for a soft opening to occur in mid-March and for a grand celebratory opening for sometime in May. Wow, that's going to be beautiful. All right, now we're talking about Miles for Mental Health by Casper Werhan. Although not yet ready for a formal annual general meeting, Miles for Mental Health, or known as MMH, is already reviewing some of its 2022 year. MMH President Diane Martin met with the Banner and Press on January 3rd, noting that the organization has been involved in several different projects within the Neepawa community. Some examples include providing funding for prizes related to the Kin Walk in May, providing funding for the Girls Fitness Club run by Tara McCarty at the Yellowhead Centre to be used for a year-end wind-up, and sponsoring the Neepawa Middle School's half-day wellness and workshop presented by Tess Lalonde and Britton Nugent. We felt the Kin Walk would benefit a lot of people because it directly makes the connection between mental well-being and physical activity, said Martin. And the Girls Fitness Club is a great group providing a really awesome service to these young girls. We're providing funding for some of their events in the past as well. We have. MMH also held its own event known as the 31 Challenge in October. Martin stressed that the focus for this event wasn't to fundraise, but to further raise awareness and encourage people to get out and walk. We wanted to make it very accessible for that reason, so the entry fee was just $10 to show commitment. Some of that money was then used for prizes for different incentives throughout the month. Each week had one or two different incentives and challenges for people, like taking a selfie at one of the activity stations. The Neepawa Men's Shed helped us to make in the summer of 22. We also had a month-long incentive to walk at least 1 kilometer every day. We did have one person complete that, and there were some pretty ugly days in October. Martin added, I think it was successful. We were hoping to have a few more participants, but there were about 50 people who participated, so we felt that was really positive. The mental health group was also the recipient of a couple of generous and heartfelt donations recently. One was made by Jody Baker of Jody Baker Photography. According to Martin, Baker had approached MMH in November, offering to donate a portion of her December income from photography sales in honor of Royce Hollier. Baker had been on the MMH board before and had stepped down prior to losing Royce. She's been a very valuable member of the board, and of course everybody who knows Royce wanted to help keep the memory alive and keep the conversation going. That was Jody's goal, said Martin. She presented us with the check the last week of December. We're very appreciative of the effort that she has made to support our organization. We're going to make sure that those funds go towards a men's mental health initiative, such as the donation we made to the Men's Shed to help keep their projects going and find a place for them to meet more regularly. The other donation was the first of its kind that MMH has received since it originally formed sometime around 2017. This donation came from the family of the late Keith Kennedy after his passing last year. When a person passes away, the family can indicate through the funeral home a charity that they would like to make a donation to being made to. Miles for Mental Health was the organization in this case, said Martin. We felt very honored to be acknowledged in that way and to know that there is that awareness in the community of the organization and the support that goes along with it. Martin added, it's encouraging to know that the community is beginning to understand a little bit about what we're about. For the 2023 year, MMH is currently looking for and accepting project ideas. Right now, the organization is aiming to focus on men's mental health, as well as working with new mums. We'd like to do something in a support capacity for new mums, maybe developing a mums morning out group. So we're fleshing out the ideas on that. Building upon the existing walking trail activity stations is also a possibility in the future. Another important goal for the group is the addition of new board members. Anyone wishing to become involved in this capacity are invited to contact Martin directly by calling 204-841-0932 or MMH by email at milesformentalhealth@gmail.com. Come back to that one. Out of Helen's Drysdale Kitchen by Helen Drysdale. This week it's entitled Baking with Your Kids is Really Rewarding. Baking with your kids at home is certainly rewarding. Sure, it does take longer and it takes patience and makes more of a mess than doing it yourself. If you can make time for it, I have found kids are much more likely to eat what they have helped make. There are a lot of good baking recipes that are not centered entirely on white flour and sugar, but around healthier ingredients. Kids love muffins. The key is to use ingredients that aren't full of sugar and fat, like a lot of muffins you can buy. Muffins such as banana oatmeal, zucchini, apple, and carrot have ingredients that are familiar to kids while also providing them with good nutrition. I add ground flaxseed, wheat germ, sesame seeds, shredded coconut, hemp hearts, etc. to regular muffin recipes while reducing the sugar and oil amounts. Make large batches of muffins and then freeze them so that when the kids want a muffin for their lunches, it's ready. I often put chocolate chips in them as it encourages the kids to eat them. I only use the mini chips as you can get away with less, as well as put a few chips on top as chocolate chips have "Eat Me" written all over them. So she has 2 muffins this week, blueberry oat muffins and apple raisin muffins. You'll have to go online to look at those recipes. They look very good. Now, this week by Delcy Martin is from Your Listening Ear. Her article is entitled Division of Labor Still Unequal. Unequal division of labor in the home is the #1 reason why couples seek out relationship counseling. Answering the question of why there is unequal division of labor in this home is not straightforward. First, we could look at it from an economic lens. This says that the person who is engaging in paid employment is contributing to the home financially, so the individual who is not employed would contribute by taking on the house labor. This pairs well with the time availability lens that says that the person who has the freest time available takes on the bulk of the household duties. There are many relationships around the world that divide labor with the economic and time availability lenses, but studies have shown that these relationships are the minority. I am blessed to have some amazing men in my life and a partner who provides me with a true equal division of labor. However, I am in the minority. Studies show that 75% of females are still taking on the heaviest load of labor in the home. Women who are more economically dependent on their partners are taking on more labor in the home, but economically dependent men are still taking on less household labor. In fact, even with our highest number of women ever in the paid labor market, women are still taking on the bulk of house-related duties. Why is this still happening in 2023? Well, the best answer that we have for that is called gender ideology. Gender identity is who you feel and know you are at your core, your own feeling of being a man or a woman. Gender ideology is how you believe genders should behave. So you can have 2 different men, each one have a different idea of what being a man means. In this case, we can have 2 different guys, one believing that household labor is women's work and the other believing in equity. The ratios have improved dramatically since the 1950s housewife era, but they are still surprisingly behind. The role of gender ideology is very real. Men have not escaped the effects of this outdated ideological system. Paid labor has become an essential part of the male identity, and for many, their self-esteem and masculinity is tied to their ability to bring money into the home. The effects of unequal division aren't to be taken lightly. They cause major problems to both self-esteem and the relationship. I want to encourage you to work on this with your partner. So there's a few things here. Number 1, talk about your expectations, but also make room for theirs. Number 2, express gratitude for what your partner does. Yes, doing the dishes is part of being a grown-up and it's something they should do, but expressing gratitude is the best way to reinforce a behavior that we want to see happen again. Number 3, define what the word clean means. Everyone has a different threshold of what the idea of clean is. And number 4, check in and renegotiate. Regularly check in with your partner to see if your system is working. Maybe there is 1 or 2 chores that your partner prefers to do and you absolutely hate doing. There's so much more to this topic. If you'd like to know more, check out the episode on my podcast called The Relationship Review with Delcy Martin for the full-length version of Division of Labor. Delcy Martin is a Master's of Social Work student with the University of Calgary. Anyone who may have feedback on the column or wish to have a question anonymously answered as part of the weekly column may reach Delcy Martin at delcymartin@trueyoutherapy.ca. Her podcast, The Relationship Review, can be found on Apple, Amazon, Google, and Spotify podcast platforms. Now there's an article, it's called Thankful for Kind Community by Casper Warehan. Shirley Gwen, Neepawa born and longtime resident of the community, is starting out 2023 on a note of gratitude. During her years growing up in Neepawa and living here after returning in 1974 from Niagara Falls, Shirley Gwen has witnessed the kindness of the community firsthand. It's always been a very friendly, nice, and beautiful town. That experience has persisted, with Gwen sharing her appreciation for a few individuals in particular from the last couple of years. The first are my home care gals, who come faithfully every morning with their cheery smiles and bright eyes above their masks. Second, the 2 town workers who stopped when I fell on the road while taking the garbage bin out. Gwen explained that one of the men, while the other helped her, went over to one of her friends to see if they could take her to the hospital. The fall had been hard and caused her to hit her head as well as scrape her ankle, causing it to bleed. These 2 men went out of their way to help me, so they sure need extra thanks, said Gwen. Those next mentioned were Linda and Murray Hart, who are there for her always. Gwen explained that she had had an incident where her femur fell out of her pelvic bone. The Harts swiftly took Gwen to the hospital, where her doctor was available on call. My other friends, Sylvia and Fred Quist, look after me as well. Sylvia and I have coffee every Sunday, and I get invited as one of the family whenever they have a get-together. Another person, Joy Diath, helps her keep in touch with her faith. After Gwen's mishap with her leg and resulting surgery, she isn't able to get around as much, and she used to, though she does use a cane when she can, and can't make it to church. However, Diath sends her holiday cards and birthday cards each year. Joy sends the cards without fail to keep in touch with the First Baptist Church. Gwen also shared her appreciation for the Salvation Army, Kin Club, and other groups who send and deliver Christmas parcels to the elderly and who may be alone, as well to the library. The services by the Salvation Army and Kin Club, etc., are such a nice surprise, and I certainly feel joy as one who receives this kindness. And a special thanks to Deborah Unger, the supervisor and staff at the Neepawa Library. In her final comments, Gwen added, "They all deserve kudos for their friendliness. I really am grateful for the help they've provided me and for the assistance while I'm out of commission. Happy New Year wishes to all." Now we have an activity article here, a fun, fresh take on fitness by Owen Devereaux. For some, a new exercise program can feel more like a chore that has to get done as opposed to an activity you look forward to doing. In the case of Zumba, it is safe to say that it's one of those workouts that feels more like a party than a burden. Zumba is a Latin-inspired dance workout that started in the 1990s. Unlike other programs such as step aerobics or yoga, Zumba encourages participants to move to the beat of the music, more than following exact choreography. That freedom is one of the main reasons it remains a popular go-to for fitness-minded folks, as it is practiced by 15 million people in 180 countries. A little closer to home, a Zumba-inspired class has slowly but steadily developed a loyal following. The classes are held at the Neepawa Junior Rifle Club building every Tuesday and Thursday evening, as well as Sundays. The program is taught and administered by Prince Nico Philip Neems, who says it's an activity that has built its following through fun. It's a healthy lifestyle, the type of workout that builds stamina while burning calories. But there is more positives to it than just that. There is the social aspect of it all. Why not go out for an hour, get a sweat going, and enjoy your life? Exercise doesn't need to be a chore. It can be fun, and that's what we try to do here. We try to keep it fun. One participant in the class who definitely has fun with it is Eleanor Taylor, who has been a devoted attendee since October. Taylor said it was the spirit of support and friendship she felt immediately as she walked through the doors that has stuck with her. "The first time I came here, we had so much fun. I was so welcomed by everyone, and I was just thrilled with this whole group of happy, friendly, welcoming young women," said Taylor. "I love to dance, I love to have fun, and that's something I get from this. It is wonderful here. These young women, they're in their 20s and 30s. I'm 82, but it doesn't matter. I dance at my speed and they dance at theirs. I love it and come at least twice a week. A wonderful group of welcoming, fun young women." And here's a picture of Eleanor Taylor right here doing her Zumba. And here's the class doing theirs. Now, Ag Days is coming fast, submitted by Manitoba Ag Days. This Tuesday, January 17th, is the 46th annual Manitoba Ag Day show. We are all set to transform the Keystone Centre in Brandon, Manitoba, into Canada's largest indoor farm show for 3 days of all things agriculture. As the first event in the new year, it really is where the ag year begins, explains Kristen Phillips, Manitoba Ag Days General Manager. The 3-day event is an exposition of agricultural technology and equipment that attracts exhibitors and patrons from all over Canada, the northern United States, and abroad. We are so excited to be back in person this year. This year, Manitoba Ag Days will welcome over 550 exhibitors, including 32 contenders in the Innovation Showcase. The Innovation Showcase is encompassing to what is happening in all sectors of agriculture and will give all companies a chance to showcase their advancements, explained Brad Cramond, Manitoba Ag Days Board co-chair. The Innovation Showcase will have 7 categories, including agronomics, animal and livestock, agriculture equipment, agribusiness services, ag tech, farm safety, and farm built. For a full list of entries for the 2023 show, please visit https://www.agdays.com/innovations/. Craman went on to say, showcasing the latest and greatest new inventions and advancements is so important to our industry. As farmers, we need to take the time to try to understand how these new advancements can positively impact our day-to-day business. Guests can also expect to see a diverse speaker lineup presenting on a variety of economic and agronomic topics. This year's program is an exceptional lineup of knowledge and expertise on an array of topics that are relevant to our industry, stated Stephanie Kirkshanks, Program Chair for Manitoba Ag Days. Agronomy continues to be a real focus, as well as technology and innovation. To see the full speaker listing and schedule, please visit https://www.agdays.com/speakers/. For the first time in 46 years, Manitoba Ag Days will have an admission fee. You can purchase your tickets now by going to www.agdays.com/tickets. Early bird tickets are $15 per day, and 3-day passes are also available for $40. Tickets will be available during the 3 days of the show for $20 and can be purchased online or at the Dome building. Agriculture plays a very important role in our economy in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and in all of Western Canada. Our board of directors is passionate about our industry, and we want everyone to experience agriculture and see it up close and personal. At Ag Days, we create a welcoming environment where farmers can come and do business with ag manufacturers and ag businesses. They will find all of the latest in technology and services to build their own businesses. So we welcome you to join us at the Keystone Centre in Brandon, Manitoba, January 17th, 18th, and 19th, to see what this amazing industry has to offer, stated Phillips. And on that note, there's another article about the Manitoba Ag Days, submitted by Manitoba Ag Days. Manitoba Ag Days is recognized as having the premier speaking lineup on the Ag Show circuit, and this year we are very proud to welcome world-class featured speakers to the show. The 2023 show theme is Farmer Health, Safety and Wellness, and there will be 3 speakers addressing mental health through their own unique perspectives and experiences. Join us to learn through their humor, tragedy, and perseverance. The first speaker is Big Daddy Taz. His topic is Out of My Mind. He will be at the FCC Theatre at the Keystone Centre Tuesday, January 17th at 11 a.m. The next speaker is Chris Beaudry. His topic is about farm, hockey, and stress, entitled Discovering Your Path for Today. He will be speaking at the MNP Theatre at the Keystone Centre Wednesday, January 18th at 11 a.m. And the last speaker is John Montgomery. It's about belief, and it's entitled It Does a Body Good. He will be speaking at the FCC Theatre at the Keystone Centre Wednesday, January 18th at 4:30 p.m. Manitoba Ag Days is also proud to present author and geopolitical economist Peter Zehan. Agriculture is a global enterprise that connects individuals, regions, and countries. Western Canadian agriculture is impacted by events and decisions that occur locally and nationally, as well as in other parts of the world. Join us when Zehan will take us into the future of agriculture in this new and sometimes disorderly world. He will be speaking at the FCC Theatre at the Keystone Centre on Tuesday, January 17th at 4 o'clock. And his topic will be Agriculture at the End of the World. The 2023 complimentary speaking program includes over 70 speakers and offers a wide variety of formats and topics. The full speaker schedule can be found at agdays.com/speakers. You are sure to find sessions of particular interest to you on each day of the show. 3-day show passes are available for just this reason. Visit agdays.com/tickets to purchase your admission tickets today. Now for the sports pages. Titans triumph in shootout marathon in Niverville by Owen Devereaux. The Neepawa Titans have been playing a lot of extra hockey this season, and their recent home-and-home against the Niverville Nighthawks was no exception. Heading into the pair of games against the Manitoba Junior Hockey League's newest franchise, the Titans had already gone to overtime 9 times. That amount was the most of any MJ club this season, and while Neepawa would add 2 more to that dubious distinction, they'd at least come away with 3 of a possible 4 points in the standings for their efforts. The first game was on Friday, January 6th at Yellowhead Centre. After 60 minutes of back and forth action, the game shifted into overtime, tied at 3-3. Briley Wood, Hayden Stocks, and Dean Noonan all scored for the Titans in regulation, while Ty Kennett, Carter Spearig, and Ben Whitford picked up goals for Niverville. About midway through OT, Josh Paulus put away the game winner, giving the Nighthawks the victory, their 18th of the year. These 2 teams would meet the next night in Niverville and once again find themselves in overtime. This time, however, neither club was able to find the back of the net, so it would go to a shootout. Ultimately, the shootout would not be decided until the 12th round, when Dean Noonan bulleted a slap shot past goaltender Chris Vines to give Neepawa the win. Even more impressive than the length of the shootout was that fact that both Fines and Titans goalie Mason Lebreau did not give up a single goal over the course of those 23 shots before Noonan. Wow. Scorers in regulation for Neepawa were Cameron Trimble, Josh Romanek, Briley Wood, Carter McLeod, and Cody Gwynison. With these results, Neepawa improved its regulation season record to 15-14, 7-1. So that means they're in the Western Division, they're in 5th place, but only 2 points out of 4th, 3 points out of 4th, and 5 points out of 3rd, and 6 points out of 1st. It's not a lot of points, so it's a very tight division. Their next regular season home game is January the 20th at 7:30 p.m. at the Yellowhead Centre against the Winnipeg Freeze. Oh, I guess I should show these pictures. This is Neepawa's Hayden Stocks and Desmond, this is from the Titans. This guy's Desmond Johnson of the Niverville Nighthawks. at the Friday, January 6th game. And this is Cameron Trimble celebrating a goal for Neepawa during the recent road game in Niverville. So we ultimately won 6-5. Now on to the Neepawa Farmers by Owen Devereaux. The Neepawa Farmers played a pair of home games over the weekend, the first being against their Yellowhead Highway rivals, the Minnedosa Bombers. In this game, which was played on Saturday, January 7th, the Bombers jumped out to a 4-0 lead before hanging on for the 5-3 final. Logan Robinson scored the lone goal for Minnedosa in the first period, as the Bombers outshot Neepawa 16-7 in the first 20 minutes of play. The second period saw Neepawa create a few early scoring chances, but they were unable to take advantage. Near the midway mark, Minnedosa would successfully reply as Shane Jury scored to make it a 2-0 score. Then, with just under 6 minutes left in the second, Matt Saylor picked up a pair of goals in quick succession, just 11 seconds apart. That made it a 4-0 score going into the last 20 minutes of regulation. Shots were 13-9 for Minnedosa at that period. Despite this figuratively steep hill to climb, Neepawa did not give up on the game, as leading scorer Kyle McDonald and teammate Ben Ranka each scored unassisted markers. Saylor would reply, however, with his third of the night, making it 5-2 for Minnedosa. A late period power play for the Farmers provided one more goal, with Dustin Cook picking up his first of the season. That would ultimately be the final score, as Minnedosa earned itself a 5-3 win. Shots for the third period were 14-6 for Neepawa. The win kept Minnedosa 2 points ahead of Gladstone in the standings, as the Bombers improved to 9-5-0 on the year, good enough for 18 points and first place in the Tiger Hills Hockey League's East Division. The very next night, the Farmers were back out on the ice at the Yellowhead Centre, this time against the Cartwright Clippers. After a scoreless first period, Cartwright opened the second with a pair of quick goals. Kyle McDonald clawed one back for Neepawa near the midway mark, and Dylan Birch would tie it with 4:13 left in the period. The third period would see a barrage of goals tallied. Ben Ranka started for Neepawa with an unassisted goal at 5:33 into the third. Cartwright's Drew Height then scored two of his own, just 5 seconds apart, to make it 4-3 for the Clippers. The final 3 goals of the night would all be for the Farmers, from Corbin Mariash, Kyle McDonald, and Garrett Rempel, respectively. McDonald's would be on a power play, while Rempel's was an empty netter. Goaltender Reese Jones picked up the win with a 25 save performances for Neepawa. With 3 games left on the regular season schedule, the Farmers stand at 6-9-0 for the standing, good enough for 4th place in the East Division. Neepawa will have this weekend off, as their next game is not until January 21st, when they go to Minnedosa to meet the Bombers. The final home game is set for January 29th versus the Gladstone Lakers. Now, still another page of sports. Basketball is back at NACI. The Neepawa Area Collegiate Institute varsity basketball teams returned to the hardwood on Tuesday, January 10th. The varsity boys team defeated Minnedosa 83-53 in their first game of the Zone 7 regular season. As for the varsity girls squad, they bested Minnedosa 51-9. This game was actually their second of the regular season, with their home opener held just before the Christmas break. In that game, the Tigers beat Elton 48-33. Meanwhile, the junior varsity teams played on Wednesday, January 11th, after the banner and press publication deadline. So the results of those games will appear in the next edition of the newspaper. And speaking of high school, this is an article about the Neepawa Tigers hockey team by Owen Devereux. Colby Asselstein's overtime goal gave the Bertle Falcons a 4-3 victory over the Neepawa Tigers in Westman High School Hockey League play on Monday, January 9th. The overtime winner was Asselstein's second goal of the game for the Falcons, who improved their record to 13-4-2 on the year. Other goal scorers for Bertle included Noah Street and Ethan Hunter. For Neepawa, Brody Pollock and Jory Kulbacki scored, with Kulbacki collecting 2, including the game-tying goal, with just 42 seconds left in regulation. The upcoming week will be a busy one for the Tigers, who are 8-4-1-1 on the year. First, they had a home game at the Yellowhead Centre on Wednesday, January 11th against the Vincent Massey Vikings. That result was a final after the publication deadline. The Tigers then followed that up with road games on Friday, January 13th against GCB Wildcats and Sunday, January 15th against the Hamiota Huskies. Okay, advertisements, we read that. Okay, we'll go back to this. Got a little comedy here. It's called Tundra by Chad Carpenter. See if you can zero in on this. History's first attempted tooth extraction became history's first successful skull extraction. Oh dear. So this guy's got his tooth attached to a tail of a mammoth, and this guy's gonna whop him in the butt saying, "Open wide." All right, first of all, Ken Waddell, right in the center. His disclaimer says the views expressed in this column are the writer's personal views and are not to be taken as part of the view of the Banner and press staff. This week it's entitled, "Don't Be So Negative, Okay?" In just about every TV show, online story, or in actual conversations, I hear so much negativity. The TV shows are a riot, especially the real estate ones. A couple looks at 3 houses, picks the one best suited to them, and then goes hard on renovations. The initial negativity really galls me. They come into a house, take one quick glance at the kitchen and say, "This kitchen has got to go." The cabinets are dated, the countertop is the wrong color, and it's not granite. My goodness, I would like to take the folks back in time to my mother's kitchen in the 60s. It consisted of a brick lean-to tacked onto the side of an 1896 1.5-story brick home. The ceiling was so low you could easily touch it at the low side. There was no running water or sewage, and the kitchen cupboards consisted of a plywood home-built box with a painted masonite top. The only additional work surface was a kitchen table and the wood stove top. If today's home renovators had to live and work in my mama's kitchen, they would not have been so quick to rip out what looks to me like pretty good cupboards. Cabinets. Way too much negativity. On the street, you hear people complaining about their latest meal at a restaurant. This wasn't right. That was wrong. Complain, complain, complain. If those same complainers could spend a day or two in Ukraine or in parts of Africa, they might change their minds about food. In Canada, it's pretty hard to sympathize with food quality and quantity complaints when most of us are as fat as we are. Way too much negativity. In terms of politics, we have lots to be thankful for. That said, we need major improvements, and some needed changes are pretty self-evident. We will leave that for another column. When we compare Canada to say Russia or to China or to Russia or to Brazil or even the United States, we have it pretty good. Healthcare receives lots of criticism, but even with all our problems, healthcare is pretty good in Canada. Having experienced both Canadian and US healthcare personally and firsthand, I would say when it comes to emergency care, the two countries are about the same. If you need emergency care, it happens pretty fast in both countries. Canada falls behind when it comes to wait times. Wait times basically don't exist in the US. Not in Mexico either, as I have been told by people with first-hand knowledge of their system. Where Canada beats the US is in cost to the individual. In Canada, we all pay for each other's care, but in the US, it's health insurance or cash up front. In my experience, the healthcare bureaucracy is in both countries is equally bad, but neither deserve the level of negativity we often hear. What it boils down to is do the best you can with what you have. Look forward to continual improvements. One way of summing it up is to hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and take what you get. Sounds a bit brutal, but maybe there's a better way of coping. An old song from the Christian church says, "Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your blessings and see what God has done." How true. Never mind the dry toast at the restaurant or the cool coffee. Maybe be happy with the old kitchen cabinets. Be thankful we have pretty good doctors, health care staff, and hospitals. Counting our blessings is a good place to put our minds away from the negativity. Having escaped from negativity, maybe we can work together to fix stuff, be it food, cabinets, healthcare, or any one of many human issues. It's a lot easier to build and renew from a positive mindset than from the depths of negativity. Okay, Rita Friesen is, her article this week is called "It's All Downhill from Here." Walking past the Early Learning Center, I simply stopped to watch little people sledding. It was easy to pause. One of the littles is a great-grand, and the love for sledding runs deep in our family. With the first family, we would load up a snowmobile, toboggans, and carpets, and as many kids as the 13-passenger van would contain, and head to the Miami Hills. The slope was gentle and long, and without a tow or ride back up, one would cheerfully make 6 runs in an afternoon, and with grim determination that could be stretched to 10. But with the ride up, well, afternoon was glorious. There would be hot chocolate and snacks, and a very contented and quiet crowd heading home. Never an accident for our family on that hill. Living on the farm at Riding, there was a tiny slope for the ditch in front of the house. The grandsons were probably 5, 4, and 4, and they spent entire afternoons climbing up to the road and coasting perhaps 30 feet, and it would be fun. When we moved to the acreage and the grands were older, we made the outing to Spruce Woods Park. The hill was much steeper, and more accidents happened to us there than ever before. Taking a grandson with me on a run, we flipped. I completed at least 3 somersaults, landing on my neck each time, and lay there for a long minute, figuring out if everything still worked, while the lad stood there declaring I was a very bad driver. Just east of the house, there was an adequate slope for sledding as well. We would fire up the wood stove in the CN shack and spend a delightful hour outdoors, close enough to home that we would slip out on a full moon night and toboggan to our heart's content. And then there is the real toboggan hill just off Highway 16. Story for that one. I was accustomed to taking the grands and their friend to the hills for an hour or two. One day the girls asked if that could be worked into the weekend, and I assured them I would make that work. As we loaded the car, one casually asked if they could have one of my cell phones. Sure, but why? So They could call me when they wanted a ride home. Slightly deflated, I handed over the phone, drove them out, and waited to be summoned. Back in my day, I trudged out through the pasture to the pond, dragging a chore toboggan with gaps between the layers of my playwear, wrists slightly exposed and space for snow between boot and ankle, woolen mitts that balled up. Not today's active wear gear by any means, and then climb to the top of the dugout banks, plunge into several feet of loose snow, creating a path that would eventually allow access to the jump to the ice surface below. And that was between the morning and evening chores on a Saturday afternoon. Ed was in his 80s the last time he hit the slope. Give me a few more runs to go. She always gives me good memories. Now for Neil Stroshine, faithfully yours. This week, where do we begin? I wish media news reporters and analysts would stop trying to be mind readers, especially when it comes to guessing why some prominent government leaders make decisions or take aggressive actions that defy all forms of reason and logic. The latest victim of these mind readers is Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now let me make one thing perfectly clear. I do not condone Russia's invasion of Ukraine, nor do I support the ongoing war that is being waged there. But I have very little time for stories like the one I read online last week, in which a senior Danish official alleged that Putin's decision to invade Ukraine was due to drugs he is taking to fight a supposed case of cancer. Those drugs, this official speculates, brought on feelings of omnipotence and grandeur, also known as megalomania, and impaired Putin's ability to make wise decisions. Now, I have one question for this official. How do you know that this is so? The truth is that only two people, Putin and God, know why Putin verbally attacked Ukraine and its president, and why he followed those verbal attacks with an armed invasion. You and I cannot read minds, nor does any one of us have a direct pipeline to God so that we can ask and he will tell us why certain people do what they do. God is the only one who knows what goes on in a person's mind, and he's the only one who knows how many of our thoughts have been turned into actions, whether good or bad. One day, every person who has ever lived on this earth will stand before God. He will look us in the eye and ask the same question he asked our first parents. What have you done? Genesis 3, verse 13. He will expect honest answers because he already knows them, and we will be judged according to our words and deeds. If we want to know who's to blame for the problems our world is facing, all we need to do is look in a mirror, and we will see the image of someone who is at least partly responsible for them. It doesn't really matter where we live. We are all trying, each in our own way, to learn how to survive and thrive in a hostile world. Your daily challenges will differ from mine, but when dealing with them, we have only two options from which to choose. One is to try to solve them in our own way, using our own ideas, wisdom, resources, and methods, even if that means that we must engage in a little trickery and deceit at times. Or we can seek the help of the one who created us, who placed us on this planet at this time in history, and decided that we should live in this part of the world, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the abundant resources that exist above, on and beneath the surface of this part of the earth. Knowing that we would never survive on our own, God gave us an operator's manual for life. It never needs updating, but the issues it addresses are the same as they were when its first words were put on paper. God never intended that this manual, which goes by its familiar name, the Holy Bible, would sit on a shelf somewhere gathering dust. He asks us to read it and live by its teachings. If we want to change society, that is where we need to begin. All right. Lastly, of the paper this week is looking back, where we look back to 110 years ago, Tuesday, January 14th, 1913. News came by telephone that the Fraser Building in Kenton was burned on Sunday morning. The lower portion was occupied by a hardware dealer and the Bank of Hamilton, and the upper story by Mr. and Mrs. H.A. Fraser, who lost all their furniture. Mrs. W.H. Davis of the Universal Film Company will be here on Wednesday night at the Opera House with a big 3-reel mystery picture entitled The Glass Coffin. This is the greatest photoplay sensation of the year. Don't miss it. Prices are 25 cents and 15 cents. 3 shows commencing at 7:30. 100 years ago, Tuesday, January 16th, 1923, our Neepawa Con 5 Orchestra has been engaged to furnish music for the automotive show in Winnipeg from February 5th to 10th. Some honor, will say. Now the problem is to get the boys away from their jobs or school for the week. 90 years ago, Tuesday, January 10th, 1933, Margarita Baroni returned from Brandon last week, where she had gone to spend a week as a guest of Mr. and Mrs. Luders. Miss Baroni returned from Winnipeg on Saturday night by motor, with Martino Baroni having gone to the city on Tuesday with Arnold Baroni, who returned to the Agricultural College to finish his course. 80 years ago, Thursday, January 14th, 1943, Pilot Officer Robert Wallace of the Royal Canadian Air Force visited recently with Mr. and Mrs. J. Fluke before leaving for Eastern Canada, where he has been posted as an instructor. 70 years ago, January 15th, 1953, at 5:55 p.m., Friday, January 9th, the long-delayed stork finally arrived at the Neepawa District Memorial Hospital with the first official baby of 1953. Norma Jean Barber, a dark-haired little girl, is the first child born to Mr. and Mrs. Gerald Arthur Barber of Burnie. So she is 70 years old, January 15th. Roy Davies of Neepawa visited in town Sunday en route to Dauphin to compete in the Bonspiel. George Atkins of Neepawa is a member of the Davies rank. Nelson Dunsmore is with Earl Burney's rank at the Dauphin Bonspiel. Captain Ethel Markardson and Lieutenant F. Ram have been transferred to Winnipeg by the Salvation Army Captain Bessie Agar and Lieutenant Dorothy Taylor have arrived in Neepawa to take charge of the local Salvation Army Corps. 60 years ago, January 18th, 1963, shoemaker McGillivray agencies are initiating a new travel service for Neepawa and District. They are offering the first complete independent travel service to be established in Neepawa. The Neepawa office will arrange for passports, immunization shots, and almost any other service required by a traveler wherever he wants to go. Mayor George Ray threw the first rock at the Neepawa Curling Club Tuesday morning to officially open the Ladies' Bonspiel. 50 years ago, Thursday, January 11th, 1973, Wilfred Halder, or known as Bill Votney, who retired in May 1970 as publisher of the Portage La Prairie Daily Graphic, died at the age of 61. Mr. Votney came to Portage La Prairie upon purchasing the Graphic Leader and the Weekly Manitoba Liberal from the late Maud Hawley Smith in 1946. The Liberal later became the Portage Leader. He subsequently purchased the Neepawa Press and the Neepawa Press and the McGregor Herald as part of Vopni Press Limited, later disposing his interest in Neepawa's publication. Mr. Vopni was a firm believer in boosting communities, and during his ownership of the Neepawa Press, he made it a policy that everything possible should be purchased locally and that the local newspaper should have complete autonomy in its management and editorial outlook. He was always among the first to assist local enterprises by purchasing shares or giving donations to such company projects as Neepawa Area Development Corporation, NADCO, the Golf Club, the Curling Club, and the Chamber of Commerce in order to help the town progress. Wow. The weatherman apparently decided to speed up the demolitions of the old sports arena Tuesday night when he called up a strong gust of wind and leveled all the remaining arches in one blow. Workmen arriving at the site Wednesday morning were aghast. All that remains standing now is a portion of the small room behind the ticket office, which is being used as a tool shed. The corner looks bare, but it won't be for long. Construction begins on the new senior citizens apartment block, which will take the place of the arena building, which is still there. 40 years ago, January 13th, 1983, General Manager of Gardewine North, a Winnipeg trucking firm, said he feels the Motor Transport Board had already ruled in favor of Hare's cartage of Neepawa before hearings last October. George Friesen said it is his personal opinion that they had made up their minds before the hearing and that his company has been treated differently in other dealings with MTB. MTB is the Motor Transport Board. The issue is not money, according to Friesen, as the company doesn't stand to lose much revenue from Neepawa business, but it is one of principle. And in Glenella, anniversary congratulations for 37 years of marriage to George and Erna Mitchler. 30 years ago, January 12, 1993, on October 22, 1992, Dennis Rogers of Arden received his degree Master of Arts from the University of Manitoba, having completed a thesis regarding the role of language in political theory. While completing this degree, Dennis was awarded a University of Manitoba Graduate Fellowship, served as the Don of Men's Residence at St. John's College, and was selected to participate in the Manitoba Legislative Internship Program. He is currently working as the assistant to Manitoba's Deputy Minister of Family Services. And 20 years ago, Monday 13th, 2003, 4 people were charged after Spruce Plains RCMP raided a hydroponic grow operation near Burnie on Thursday. Ooh. And I guess the last thing I'll read to you today is what's coming up at the Roxy Theatre. On January 13th and 14th at 7:30 p.m. at the Roxy Theatre, the movie called Black Panther: Wakanda Forever will be showing. And the weekend after that, January 20th and 21st, showtime 7:30. The movie called Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody will be showing. So I've read everything I can read now in this week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press. So I want to thank you all for joining us for this, and maybe we'll see you another day. So goodbye for now.